at your neighbor and tell them, just who am I that God would love me so? Just who am I that God would remember me so? What is there about me? Some of the very ones you grew up with, some of the very ones you hung out with, some of the very ones you clubbed with were on the streets with, they're dead now, and you're still here. You better give God some praise up in this house. I shouldn't be here. Look at your neighbor and tell him, I shouldn't be here. I've not always been right. I've not always done right. You just don't know my story. You don't know what I had to pass through. You don't know what I had to come out of. You don't know how God kept me. You don't know how God delivered. Don't know. I was raised in poverty, extreme poverty. Come up from a family of 13. We wasn't poor, we was poor. We couldn't afford the extra OR. Every weekend, I'd go to the dump with the rest of my brothers and sisters, and we'd rummage through hundreds upon hundreds of trash bags. We made our living in the dump. It was from the dump I got clothes to wear. It was from the dump that my school supplies came from. Any toys I had came from the dump. I was in the dump, but the dump was not in me, because God had put his hand upon me, and I knew God had chosen me, that while I was in my mother's womb, the Lord done spared my life. Hey, God kept me. God watched over me. I say, Lord, who am I? God has blessed me above all of my family. Who am I that you would bring me out of that? Such a dysfunctional family. But God. Touch somebody. Tell them you just don't know. In the year 2000, I was scheduled to preach at a conference in Trinidad. On the 5th of July, the conference was to begin. I arrived in the country on Independence Day on the 4th of July. And around 8 o'clock that evening, and on our way to the hotel, decided that we'd stop at a restaurant called the Rib House in Tunapuna, Trinidad, to order some food, just to take it back to the hotel. Standing at the counter, reading the menu that was on the wall, I became the victim of a robbery. I became the victim of a violent crime. A young man high on drugs, with an intent to rob, put a 45 caliber handgun, a 45 pistol in my face. I looked down the barrel of the gun. You could see the demons dancing in his eyes. He intended on killing me. He cold-blooded. And as I looked down the barrel of a 45, there was no fear. I can honestly say I had a peace. Why? Because I knew God was not finished with me yet. That my purpose had not yet been fulfilled. That there was yet more. Look at your neighbor and tell them, as long as there's a work yet for you to do, I am convinced that no weapon formed against you is going to prosper. No matter what the devil does, no matter what weapon he uses in his arsenal, no matter who he works through, you cannot stop what God has ordained. You can't take out that which God has chosen. Saul tried to take David out many times, but he couldn't do it. I had no fear. I had such a peace. I knew he was going to pull the trigger, but somehow, some way, I knew it was going to be all right. That bullet left the chamber of that gun. God got a hold of that bullet. He guided it like he did the stone that left David's sling. God got a hold of it. They don't understand the trajectory of the bullet. A 45, you don't walk away from a 45 at close range. You a vegetable or you dead. Bottom line. But God, touch somebody, tell them, but God. You wonder why I'm up in here tonight. It's not Brother Wes, it's J-S-U-S. Touch somebody, tell them I'm here tonight because of J-S-U-S. Look at your neighbor and tell them you don't know my story. You don't know what I passed through. You don't know the challenges. You don't know the hardships. You don't know the failures. You don't know the mess. You don't know the attacks. You don't know like I know what the Lord has done for me. Somebody better praise him. And as I looked at and I watched God got a hold of that bullet. They don't know why it didn't just go back and blow up the whole back of my head and neck. They don't know why it didn't go straight up and just blow my brains out. But God got a hold of it. That bullet entered the left side of my mouth. I lost all of my teeth, top and bottom. It went through my tongue. I lost half of my tongue. It went down through the bottom of my mouth and lodged right here on the left side of my neck. Statistically speaking, there's no way, it is not possible for that bullet to have lodged in my neck. When you see the x-ray and you see the size of that slug, you got to stand back and say, God is real. Some touch your neighbor and tell him, my God is real. My God is real. My